My spoiled sister cheated with my boyfriend before her wedding, I told her fiancé, and his revenge stunned everyone. So, picture this, I'm a 28-year-old woman right in the middle of a total mess involving my 26-year-old sister and my 29-year-old boyfriend. My sister's wedding was creeping up fast, and suddenly, she started acting super weird around my boyfriend. At first, it was just little things, like, she'd laugh way too hard at his jokes, even the ones that weren't that funny. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she was just over the top excited because of the wedding. But then, it started getting a little sketchy. She'd find all sorts of reasons to touch him, like putting her hand on his arm while talking or accidentally bumping into him. And I swear, she was giving him these long, lingering looks when she thought no one was watching. My gut was doing flips, but I kept telling myself I was probably just being paranoid. After a family dinner where she was extra flirty, I brought it up with my boyfriend. I asked, "Hey, did you notice Sarah was acting kinda weird tonight?" He looked at me like I came from Mars and said, "What are you talking about?" I told him about the laughing, the touching, the looks, everything. He shrugged it off, saying, "You're overthinking it. She's just excited about the wedding. It's nothing." But his reassurances didn't really calm me down. My instincts were on high alert, so I decided to pay more attention, hoping I was just imagining things. The next few weeks were super tense. All I could see was her trying to sit next to him and find any excuse to get him involved in wedding stuff, even when I was standing right there. Then came the family barbecue at my parents' place. I went inside for like 2 minutes, and when I came back, there they were, my sister and my boyfriend, standing way too close, whispering and giggling. The second they saw me, they jumped apart, and my sister walked off acting all casual. I felt sick and furious but stayed quiet, not wanting to make a scene. Later at home, I brought it up again, trying to keep it chill. "What were you and Sarah talking about earlier?" I asked. He looked surprised and said it was just about wedding stuff, like the music playlist. That didn't sit right with me. Why did they need to stand so close for that? He got frustrated and insisted she was just being friendly. At this point, I'd had it. I told him she was practically throwing herself at him, and he wasn't doing anything to stop it. He looked hurt and reminded me she's my sister and he's just being polite. He thought telling her to back off was out of line. I suggested he could at least set some boundaries, but he said he didn't need to because he wasn't interested in her at all. We went around in circles, each of us stuck in our own perspective. It was going nowhere, and we went to bed still mad, with nothing resolved. The next day, I realized the only way to deal with this was to confront my sister directly. I couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong, so I decided to give her a call and sort this thing out once and for all. So, I asked my sister if she was up for a coffee catch-up, and she was all for it, sounding super cheerful and completely unaware of the worries that had been eating away at me. We decided to meet at this quaint little cafe just a hop away from her place. Fast forward to the day, and there I was, a bundle of nerves, stirring my coffee with shaky hands. My sister, though, was on cloud 9, all energized and bubbly, diving into her wedding plans without a care in the world. Her complete obliviousness to my unease only made things more awkward for me. After sitting through a few minutes of her excited chatter, I couldn't keep it in any longer. I cut her off, mid-flow, my voice no longer hiding the heavy stuff I was about to lay down. I told her we had to have a serious chat. She blinked in surprise, caught off guard by my sudden shift in tone, and was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I took a moment to breathe deeply, trying to steady myself, and then spilled the beans. I told her how her behavior around Tom, my boyfriend, was freaking me out. I brought up the flirting, those casual touches, and lingering glances that had been bugging me for ages. I made it clear her actions had to stop. As I explained, her face was a storm of emotions, first shock, then confusion, and soon after, anger. She flat out denied flirting with Tom, acting like I was speaking another language. I stood firm, insisting that whether she realized it or not, her behavior was crossing lines and really stressing me out. She let out a laugh, but not the funny kind. She dismissed my worries, saying Tom was practically family and she was just being friendly. Not that her words did much to ease the tension, instead, it seemed to hit a sore spot. Sitting there, it dawned on me that this wasn't going to be an easy fix, and the gap between us might only get wider. I finally vented my frustrations, pointing out that this was more than just being nice. I highlighted how she constantly found reasons to be near Tom, touched him way too much, and laughed at all his jokes, even the ones that were far from funny. To me, it was clear what she was doing, and it was making me more uncomfortable by the day. As I laid it out, her face turned an angry shade of red. She was clearly stunned by my accusations, especially with her wedding so close. She snapped back, questioning my confidence and suggesting that I must have serious insecurities to accuse her like this. Her words stung, but I stood my ground. I tried to explain that this wasn't about insecurity but about respect, emphasizing that she was stepping on boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. Suddenly, she got up, her chair screeching against the floor, signaling she was done with our conversation. She announced she wasn't going to sit there and listen to what she thought were ridiculous, paranoid accusations. She made it clear that if I couldn't trust my own sister, then that was my problem, not hers. And with that, she stormed out, leaving me drowning in a sea of emotions. I felt awful and started doubting myself. Had I blown things out of proportion? Was I just being paranoid? When I got home, Tom immediately sensed something was off. He asked what happened, and I spilled everything about my chat with my sister. As I talked, I could see concern clouding his face. When I finished, he sighed heavily and said he thought I'd screwed up. He was worried Sarah would be really hurt, especially so close to her big day. Feeling a bit defensive, I asked if he was siding with her. He quickly reassured me he wasn't, but he did express doubts about Sarah flirting with him. Even if she had been, which he didn't think was the case, he felt confronting her head-on wasn't the best way to deal with it. His comments left me even more conflicted, questioning whether I'd handled things right. With tears brimming in my eyes, I couldn't help but voice my frustration. Was I just supposed to ignore it all? The hurt was clear in my words, and sensing my distress, Tom came over, gently wrapped me in his arms, and suggested that maybe I could have done things differently. He thought perhaps I should have talked it over with him more or approached Sarah in a less confrontational way. He worried that after everything went down, Sarah was probably upset with both of us, which might cast a shadow over her upcoming wedding. Everything felt so awkward, and I was totally overwhelmed. I pulled away from his hug and asked, "So, is this all my fault?" I really needed to know if he actually thought I was to blame for what was going on. He let out a big sigh, clearly having a hard time finding the right words, and said that he didn't mean to put all the blame on me. But he did think I might have gone a bit overboard, letting my feelings get the best of me. We kept arguing for some time, but it was obvious we weren't getting anywhere. We just didn't see eye to eye, and neither of us was ready to really get where the other was coming from. Eventually, he just went to bed, leaving me alone to stew in my thoughts and doubts. The days after that were super tense. My sister stopped talking to me altogether, which hurt a lot. My parents, noticing how upset Sarah was, called me to figure out why. I tried explaining, but I could tell they also thought I had overreacted. As the wedding day got closer, I was feeling more and more unsure about what to do. I was supposed to be a bridesmaid, which is a big deal, but now it felt more like a burden. I wasn't even sure if Sarah still wanted me involved. Meanwhile, my boyfriend was still invited and thought we should both go to show there were no hard feelings. But the thought of watching my sister walk down the aisle, knowing how mad and hurt she was, made me feel sick. The whole thing was one big tangled mess, and I had no clue how to fix it without making things worse. I tried calling Sarah so many times, but she wouldn't pick up. She never answered my voicemails where I apologized and said we should talk. I even went to her place, but she just shut the door on me. As the wedding day got closer, my anxiety hit the roof. My partner kept saying I should just let it go and that things would eventually calm down. One night, I had a nightmare where I showed up to the wedding and everyone was staring and gossiping about me. I woke up shaking and cold. Things just got worse after I confronted Sarah. She told our mom about what happened, and Mom freaked out. She called, screaming at me, asking how I could be so selfish right before Sarah's wedding. She didn't want to hear my side and said I needed to fix things and apologize to Sarah immediately. The stress on our family was unbearable. Sarah still wouldn't talk to me, and now my parents were upset too. Tom, my partner, kept saying I was blowing things out of proportion, which only made me feel worse. A week before the wedding, I went to my parents' house to try to sort things out. As I got there, I heard quiet voices from the side of the house. Curious, I went to check it out and was stunned by what I saw. Sarah and Tom were partially hidden behind a big plant, caught in a passionate embrace. They were so wrapped up in each other that they didn't even notice me standing there. It felt like I got punched in the stomach, all the air left my lungs, and I couldn't move or speak at first. When it finally hit me what I was seeing, a powerful wave of anger and betrayal washed over me. I found myself shouting, "What the hell is this?" My voice shook with the intensity of what I was feeling. Both of them immediately reacted, looking shocked. Their guilty faces said it all. Sarah went pale, realizing she'd been caught, while Tom was stumbling over his words, trying to say, "It's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like, confirming all my worst fears. Tears started flowing down my face as I choked out, "How could you? My own sister and my boyfriend. The pain in my voice was clear. Sarah started crying too, her voice trembling with regret as she tried to apologize, saying, "I'm so sorry," struggling to explain. But I couldn't listen to any more excuses. The betrayal was too deep and raw. Without another word, I turned and ran, heading back to my car. Their calls for me to come back went unheard as I drove away, my mind racing with disbelief and hurt. As I sped off, my phone kept ringing, first Tom, then Sarah, and finally my mom. I couldn't bring myself to answer any of them. The pain was still too fresh, too overwhelming. When I finally got home, I felt completely numb. In a daze, I threw some clothes and essentials into a bag, knowing I couldn't stick around after what just went down. Without a second thought, I texted Tom one last time, "We're done. Don't contact me." Then I shut off my phone to block out any more messages and took off. Now I'm in a hotel room in a nearby city, wondering what on earth to do next. With the wedding just days away, there's no way I can show up with the whole fiasco between me and my sister. The bond we had feels shattered, and my whole world is flipped upside down. Everyone made me feel like I was imagining things, but turns out I was right all along, and that realization is crushing. How am I ever going to trust anyone again? Seriously, Reddit, I could use some advice on moving forward. So, here's the update. After the bombshell of finding my sister Sarah with my now ex Tom, I wandered around in a fog for days, trying to wrap my head around it all. My phone was constantly lighting up with messages and missed calls from them and even my parents, but I couldn't deal with any of it. Eventually, it hit me that Mark, Sarah's fiancé, deserved to know what went down. With a heavy heart, I decided to call him. When he picked up, he sounded confused, saying Sarah was hysterical because I'd vanished and wasn't answering anyone. Steeling myself, I laid it all out for him, my initial gut feelings, how everyone, including Tom and Sarah, dismissed my worries, and the scene I walked in on at my parents' garden. Mark stayed silent as I talked, only making the occasional sound to let me know he was still there. When I finally finished, he just thanked me for telling him and said he needed time to process everything before hanging up. As the wedding day loomed, silence was all I got from Mark and my family. Sarah stopped trying to reach out, and I began to wonder if Mark had actually forgiven her. Just the thought of her waltzing down the aisle, living her perfect life while mine was in ruins, made me sick. I realized there was no way I could watch her get married knowing what she'd done, so I decided to spend the day alone, figuring out how to rebuild after such a deep betrayal. Then, on the wedding day evening, my cousin Emma called me unexpectedly. She was buzzing with excitement and urgency as she told me, "You won't believe what just happened." Intrigued, I asked for the scoop. Emma launched into her story, saying at first everything seemed normal. Sarah looked gorgeous, Mark was at the altar, and everyone was all set for the vows. Then out of nowhere, Mark stepped forward and dropped a bomb, saying he couldn't go through with the wedding. Emma told me my heart raced as Mark told everyone he couldn't marry someone who had betrayed her sister and caused so much hurt. Sarah turned pale, sobbing as Mark apologized to my parents, explaining why I'd distanced myself. Apparently, everyone was totally stunned, trying to piece together what was happening, and Mark just walked out, leaving Sarah alone and in tears at the altar. Emma said it was like something straight out of a movie. Everyone's really shocked, my parents are trying to understand from Sarah, but she's an emotional mess. As I digested all this from Emma, I felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. You know, on one hand, I felt a bit vindicated because the truth finally came out. But on the flip side, there was this deep sadness about the mess it caused for my family. Emma noticed I was quiet and gently asked if I was okay. Honestly, I wasn't sure. I didn't want things to end up this way. After chatting a bit more with Emma, I hung up the phone and just sat there, trying to make sense of it all. The truth was out there, but at what cost? My friendship with Sarah was over, things with Tom were done, and now my family was in shambles. I realized that even though everything was clearer now, it didn't magically fix things. Healing and rebuilding trust are going to take time. But for the first time since this whole thing kicked off, I felt a tiny bit relieved. At last, I could move forward without those silent secrets holding me back. I'm not exactly sure what's coming next, but I know eventually, I'll have to face my family. For now, I'm just taking things one day at a time. If nothing else, this whole situation taught me the importance of trusting my instincts and standing up for myself, even when others are trying to make me doubt my own feelings. To everyone who supported me along the way, thank you. Your encouragement meant more than you know. And to anyone going through something similar, remember to trust your gut and don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. Thanks for watching. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do and turn on notifications for more real-life stories like this.